Alright guys, back with another bike. A potential rebuild here. This is a 2011 CBR 1000. Picked this up pretty cheap from a guy. He was asking $1,700 for it. I gave him $1,200 because he didn't have the title, and he said he's going to try to get the title, and if he can get it, I'll give him another $500 to equal the 17. Not too worried about the title because my original plan was to part this thing out, because I part bikes out on the side as well as rebuilding them. That was a 2014 R1 that I just parted out. I want to rebuild this one, but it all depends on the title. If I can't get the title, I can't rebuild it because it'll never be able to be registered and insured. So kind of waiting on that. It is missing quite a bit. He told me that the rotors shattered in the accident, so those just didn't come with the bike at all. It was a front end accident, so a lot got damaged up here. I guess he said the tow truck pulled it up onto a flatbed when it was laying on this side of the bike, so it was dragged on this side right here. Actually not really too much damage. Clip-on snapped off. All the stuff's missing up here. I got some pieces right here. This isn't even the rear tire for it. This looks like a 2012 and up. So this is probably like this is off a different bike completely. This rim right here, so it has mismatching rims, as you can see. It's got the old original rim and a newer rim right here. So like I said, not really sure if I want to rebuild it. Subframe is completely toast. It's bent right there. Might part it out, might rebuild it. Let me know what you guys think. Biggest factors right now, like I said, are the title. I don't have the title, and parts are just really expensive. That's why I part out bikes when I find them sometimes, because parts are so expensive. It's hard to justify buying all these parts for these bikes sometimes. So let's take a little closer look at it, and you guys tell me if it's worth rebuilding. Supposedly the bike does run. He told me he got it running. I don't see any major damage on the engine. It doesn't seem to leak anything, so theoretically it should run. So looking at it a little closer, I've noticed a couple big things. It's missing all of its fuses. Positive wire, negative wire, both were cut, as well as that. Possibly by a fire department. Not really sure why someone else would have done that. And the clutch cable is completely missing, and this is just chilling. So not really sure why the clutch cable is missing. I mean, it doesn't appear to be actually broken. That's just the handlebar is actually broken. So and on this side, stator wires completely destroyed. So he told me that he had started the bike, but I think it's pretty much impossible to have started the bike with all of this like it is. Even if the fuses were in there, you can't start it with the cables cut. So also check the oil. There's like no oil in the bike, so not really sure if there's a leak somewhere or if something else is going on with it. So super sus. We're gonna look into it. We're gonna start by putting some fuses in there, trying to get a battery put in there, maybe throw a little bit of oil in there, see what happens. All right, we got some wire, some bigger wire, we got some fuses, some connectors. I went out and bought some cheap oil because I have a bunch of AMS oil, and I'm not really trying to put AMS oil in here if I'm just gonna take the oil out and sell the engine anyway. So we're just gonna put some cheap oil in here just to see if the thing runs, get it running. If it does, we'll drain it, put some better oil in it, or drain it and sell it. So let's get it going. See what we can get. All right, so we got our ghetto wires hooked up here, stripped out the tips of these wires, wrapped some other wire around here. We're gonna connect the positive to the battery, the negative to the battery, and I'm probably gonna wire up the power commander as well. But before we do all that, we're gonna repair this stator wire over here. And after that, we're gonna throw this cheap oil in here, try to get it started. All right, so I've cut away this rubber protection here, exposed the good wire here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off this bad section, replace it with some good wire here, get it running. Got some fresh wires on there. This stuff's just temporary. I'll do a more longer term wiring job if the bike runs. So next step is add some oil, and then we'll get a battery in there. All right, so I put in just 1.5 quarts oil, and that seems to have been enough. So we're gonna try to get it running and go from there. Might need a little bit more oil, might not even run. So see what happens. I had to go ahead and throw an extension on the power commander wire because it was too short to reach the battery. So let's get these wires ran up in here, see what happens. All right, so I got the battery rigged up. Sadly, where I live, there was like no battery terminals. There was no wire big enough for this. I'm just kind of running with what I had in my local area. So got that. One thing I want to do real quick is I want to go ahead and plug this gauge cluster back in, because if it does turn on, I want to be able to see what's going on. So let's get this plugged in. I think that's all we got to do. All right, here goes. Got this plugged in, battery wired up, see what happens. Oh! 20,000 miles on her. Oh man. Fingers crossed right here, moment of truth. There's the fuel pump. Oh, tip sensor. What is this? Up. This might be awkward, okay. Let me just take a second. This tip sensor needs to be upright, so I'm gonna take a second. I'm gonna zip tie it up to like right here or something like that, so it's sitting upright. And then I'll go from there. Alrighty, I got the tip sensor upright. I don't think that's what it was because the fuel pump was priming, so let's try one more time here. Yep, still nothing. Let's look a little deeper. All right, so I'm looking at it and the bike's not in neutral, obviously, so that is probably it. All right, she's in neutral. Let's try 3rd time's the charm. Oh, what? No. Oh, no. All right, so the tip sensor fell. I'm gonna have to find a better place for this real quick. And I'm gonna try one more time here. All right, zip it up there a little better. Let's try one more time. Oh my gosh. I can't believe this thing actually ran that good. Like that, it runs really good. Considering the wiring job, I know it's not the best, but I just did what I had to do. I'm definitely going to do this better now that it runs. I'm gonna try to find the correct connectors here and the correct size wire, because that's not the right size, but it runs obviously. I'm gonna have to check the oil, make sure the oil is still good. I believe it was a little bit low. It was right on the kind of right on the stick, but once you run it, obviously that changes everything. The bike hasn't ran for over a year from what I understand, so can top off the oil. I know the radiator is bent in some fashion because this fan doesn't even spin over here. The other one does spin freely. So I haven't got it quite up to temp yet. I unplugged that fan. I can't remember if that's the secondary fan or if that's the secondary fan. So I gotta figure out which one's the secondary fan, because I want to be able to get it to temp. I want the fans to be able to turn on, or at least one of them, I'm sorry. So that's pretty cool. Pretty excited to see that. It sounds crazy. It sounds really good with that little slip-on right there. Sounds a lot like this one. This is the same exact motor. This is the 2011 motor that I swapped into this 2008. This is my personal bike here. Same exact bike, same exact motor. Sounds really close to the same thing. Awesome bikes. I don't even know what I want to do with this thing now, so I got a lot of stuff to start thinking about. Should I rebuild it? Should I part it out? I think the big thing is I'm gonna look up how much that subframe costs, because that's obviously toast. And then I'm kind of worried about the rim situation, because they're two different rims, so I'm not sure if I want to get an older rim back here or a newer rim up here. And so it's just a lot of things to start thinking about. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And I am still working on the BMW. It's just on hold right now because parts are incredibly expensive. I do want to rebuild this bike, but I'm just at a standstill right now because of the exhaust. That exhaust damage right there is really putting me in a pinch, because I don't really have the funds to buy a full exhaust, and I can't just buy a slip-on because the damage is on the cast. So I'm trying to find a full exhaust that's cheap so I can continue this rebuild. And the tank as well, that's another big deal, because I don't really want to do a tank cover. I wanted to have the tank the same color as the fairings, so I want to get the right parts for that bike. So we're just waiting on the parts for that bike. It still runs amazing. It's a great bike. I want it to be my personal bike, so I want to take the time to do that one right. Like I said, let me know what you want me to do with this one. I had another bike I was going to work on, but I ended up just parting this one out. It just made more sense with this bike. But this one I'm not so sure now, because the damage is pretty extensive, but I don't think it's not worth rebuilding. So let me know what you guys think. Like I said, thanks for watching. I just want to go over real quick the cost of everything on this, in case anyone was curious. So to get that wire, the big fat wire that wasn't really fat enough right there, got it over here. It was $12.70. That actually included the cost of some connectors that I didn't use as well. Those things of oil were $6.50 a piece at Meyer. I only used 1.5 of one. And then I had the fuses sitting around. So for about, I think it was like 30 bucks. Got the bike running, the battery. I have so many bikes, I just had the battery sitting around. So about 1,200 into the bike right now, plus that like 30 bucks. So 1,230 bucks. That got me a running 2011 CBR 1000. So I think it's a pretty decent deal. I mean, it's gonna be a lot better if the guy comes through with the title. So that's kind of gonna be the big thing that makes me decide whether or not I'm gonna rebuild it. I mean, if he comes through with the title, I mean, probably gonna push towards rebuilding the bike. So let me know what you guys think. I think it's a pretty good deal either way. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next build.